Hello and good evening. You're watching AWANI Tonight with me, Hafiz Marzukhi. Malaysia is targeting at least 500 billion ringgit in investment for the semiconductor industry in the first phase of the National Semiconductor Strategy, or NSS, that was launched in April. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim says the NSS will also see Malaysia developing into a global semiconductor R&D hub. In the first phase, domestic direct investment will focus on integrated circuit design, advanced packaging and manufacturing equipment, while foreign direct investment will be focused on wafer fabs and manufacturing equipment.
By phase 2, we want to establish at least 10 Malaysian companies in design and advanced packaging with revenues between 1 to 4.7 billion ringgit, or 210 to $1 billion. And at least 100 semiconductor-related companies with revenues close to 1 billion ringgit, $210 million, creating higher wages for Malaysian workers.
In addition, it also hoped to nurture at least 100 semiconductor-related companies with revenues close to 1 billion ringgit, creating higher wages for Malaysian workers. Malaysia is a major player in the semiconductor industry, accounting for 13% of the global testing and packaging. It has attracted multi-billion-dollar investments from leading firms in recent years, including Intel and Infineon. Earlier, Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim has announced that the Retirement Fund Incorporated, or QUAP, will invest up to 3 billion ringgit through the Accelerator Fund. According to him, this initiative will be carried out in Sharia-compliant investments to support the high growth of local companies and foster an exploratory investment ecosystem.
First, the Retirement Fund, or KWAP, will invest through Dana Pemacu up to 3 billion ringgit. In Sharia-compliant investments into supporting high-growth domestic Malaysian companies and also catalyze the venture investment ecosystem. Second, the Securities Commission will establish Malaysia's first social exchange, a structured approach for participation of private capital in projects with positive social outcome. This will benefit entities such as NGOs, social enterprises, and state Islamic religious councils.
The Accelerator Fund will focus on private equity investments within the country, targeting key sectors such as food security, education, digital economy, healthcare, and other areas under the Madani economic framework. Anwar emphasized that Islamic economic and financial principles are increasingly relevant in addressing global challenges and uncertainties. Additionally, he introduced a new dimension to government sukuk issuance through the Wakalah Bil Khadamat, set to launch by 2025. This move aims to optimize the government-linked investment companies, or GLIC's funds, to drive rapid growth in Malaysian companies. Foreign vehicles entering Malaysia from Singapore will be required to have a Vehicle Entry Permit, or VEP RFID tag, beginning October 1st, 2024. Transport Minister Anthony Loke says that the VEP system, which originally began in 2019, will now be fully enforced at the Johor Causeway and Malaysia-Singapore second link. According to Loke, the VEP tag will cost foreign vehicle owners 10 ringgit per tag and will be valid for 5 years. He therefore urged all foreign vehicle owners to register, install and activate their VEP RFID tags within the next 4 months before October. This, Loke said, is to avoid any issues when travelling by foreign vehicle between the two countries. Foreign vehicle drivers from Singapore entering or already in Malaysia who fail to obtain a VEP RFID tag after the October 1st deadline will have committed an offence under the Road Transport Act 1987. If found guilty, drivers will be compounded or receive a fine of up to 2,000 ringgit or be imprisoned for up to 6 months. Loke said the Road Transport Department will have full authority to deny entry to foreign vehicles into Malaysia and who do not have the valid permit after the enforcement date. Currently, over 200,000 foreign vehicles have applied for the VEP, but only 70,000 have activated their RFID tags. The Cabinet is set to discuss issues concerning the Parallel Pathway Programme on Wednesday, including a possible amendment to the Medical Act 1971. Dr. Dayang Anita Abdul Aziz shares whether amending the law to ease the entrance of graduates from this program is the best move.
The concern we have is the amendment of the Medical Act. The Medical Act itself started in 1971, so we amended it in 2012. And we took another 5 years till 1st July 2017 to legalize the National Specialist Register. And it's not even 10 years yet, yeah? So I think public needs to know why you're amending again, yeah? I mean, we can make amendment to law if the law doesn't work. We certainly shouldn't amend the law if there are parties who are not complying to the law. I think we missed the chance. We're talking so much about amending. We missed the chance. We missed the time to help the graduates of Parallel Pathway and the existing trainees to be getting into the NSR legally. Because there's ways to do it.
Dr. Dayang also highlighted alternatives for specialist doctors under the Parallel Pathway Programme, emphasizing quality over quantity.
We can bring them, because they are supposedly have gotten the qualification, right? We absorb them into the existing local accredited program. Because naturally, if you are really good, if we put you through the assessment that the local program, which is a national conjoined exams, you should be able to pass it, okay? And then and when you do that, if they pass, they get a degree, you know. It's not a college qualification, it's a degree. And you start the post-qualification training for 2 years, and if they then enter the National Specialist Register, they have a degree, and the international qualification that they said they can put behind their name. That's not a problem. And you should do this for all the graduates that has passed the Parallel Pathway, regardless of the discipline. The public must be feeling reassured, you know, that the specialists that we put in the NSR is watertight. If you amend the law just so that everybody from the Parallel Pathway can enter the National Specialist Register, that's not fair, okay? Because there's nothing wrong with the existing amended law. It has worked fine, and the way to rectify is to make sure everybody become law-abiding citizen.
We'll go for a short break. Stay with us.
Satu benda yang aku tersangatlah pasti dan yakin, Eras memangnya radio nombor 1 paling legit.
Betul! Dengan 4.5 juta pendengar, tanpa bergabung, legitlah kita nombor 1.
Ini berdasarkan kaji selidik pendengar radio GFK gelombang pertama 2024. Semua data dipersetujui oleh Radio Komersial Malaysia.
Sebab korang, era kekal nombor 1 di Malaysia.
Terdapat sedikit kebimbangan berkaitan dengan peningkatan kos sara hidup dan juga bagaimana untuk orang ramai mengimbangi peningkatan kos itu dengan perbelanjaan hari raya nanti. Sepanjang bulan Ramadan nanti, cuaca dijangka panas kering sepanjang 30 hari berkenaan.
Peniaga makanan di Bazar Ramadan dinasihatkan supaya jujur dalam menyediakan makanan, terutamanya dari sudut kualiti dan penjagaan makanan.
Welcome back. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to continue the war against Hamas despite receiving international condemnation of an airstrike on Rafah that has killed dozens of Palestinians. He says the strike was a tragic accident adding that Israel had no intention of ending the war before it achieves its goal. At least 45 people were killed in Sunday's strike, while hundreds more were treated for severe burns and fractures. Netanyahu said his military had taken every precaution possible to protect civilians and used their best efforts not to harm those not involved in the conflict. Israel Defense Forces officials said the attack had killed 2 senior Hamas commanders and that they were investigating the death of civilians in the area. Washington insisted that Israel had a right to defend itself, but conceded that it had to take precautions to protect civilians. But the Palestinians' Red Crescent said the airstrike had targeted tents for displaced people near a UN facility in the Tal al-Sultan area. Doctors Without Borders also rejected Israeli reports that the strike had been precise, saying one of its facilities had received at least 28 dead people. At Algeria's request, the UN Security Council is set to hold an emergency meeting to discuss the strike. Thousands of protesters around the world have taken to the streets to condemn Israel's attack on Rafah. The strike, one of the deadliest single incidents in the last 8 months, came 2 days after the International Court of Justice ordered Israel to stop its operation in Rafah. French President Emmanuel Macron, a European ally of Israel, said he was outraged by the Rafah strike and called for full respect of international law and an immediate ceasefire. Several thousand demonstrators rallied in Paris against Israel's military offensive in Gaza, clashing with police who fired tear gas. Hundreds also gathered at the European Commission headquarters in Barcelona, Spain, and outside the Foreign Affairs Ministry in Madrid, demanding for sanctions against the occupation. Over in the US, protests against the Israeli offensive in Rafah took place in downtown Los Angeles and in Florida, while demonstrators braved the rain in New York City to protest against Israel's military action in the southern Gaza Strip. Demonstrations were also reported to have taken place in the Netherlands, the UK, Australia, Tunisia and Morocco. Spain, Norway and Ireland have officially recognized a Palestinian state today, defying Israel, which had condemned the plan. By joining more than 140 of the 193 member states of the UN that recognize a Palestinian state, they made the move to accelerate efforts to secure a ceasefire in Gaza. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said Spain will recognize a unified Palestinian state, including the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, under the Palestinian National Authority, with East Jerusalem as its capital. The Palestinian Authority, which exercises limited self-rule in the West Bank under Israeli military occupation, has welcomed the decision. Sanchez added Madrid will not recognize any changes to pre-1967 borders unless agreed to by both parties. The 3 countries say they hope their decision will spur other European Union countries to follow suit. Thailand has approved longer visa stays for tourists, postgraduate students and remote workers in a bid to boost its tourism sector. From June, travellers from 93 countries will be allowed to stay for up to 60 days compared with the current 30 days. The government said more tourists would also be able to obtain visas on arrival. Foreign students can now stay for an extra year after graduation, while insurance requirements for foreigners wishing to retire in Thailand will be relaxed. The validity of digital nomad visas for self-employed and remote workers would also be extended to 5 years. Thailand recorded 14.3 million tourists from January to May 26 this year and is targeting a record 40 million foreign arrivals by the end of 2024. Prior to the pandemic in 2019, it welcomed 39.9 million arrivals, generating 1.91 trillion baht. That wraps up this edition of AWANI Tonight. I'm Hafiz Marzukhi. Thanks for watching and good night.